All right. So I was uh, using the time right before this to kind of prep, get focused, get ready for everything, make sure I had everything done. And all of a sudden I look up and I'm a couple minutes late. But one of the things that I've been practicing is not getting anxious about that, like I would have in the past. So I think that's part of what we're trying to do here is unlearn a lot of those patterns, stress patterns, and allow more relaxation in order to allow health. So, but yeah, today we're talking about a variety of things, but kind of like what is the mindset or the heart set for this group and the offerings here and the culture that we want to establish, and then how do I plan on making it more effective, more impactful, and so I'll be sharing some of those plans and then getting to your comments. But first, actually, just listen to a TED Talk on how having fun helps us be healthier. And it's kind of funny because, no pun intended, but I guess I'm maybe a typical responsible firstborn, very serious, tend to just focus on what needs to be done, the practical things, and I do often forget to have fun, even though like I try to have fun when I can, but I think it can be harder for me to remember that that's so important. That's part of being healthy, is having fun. And I know that the trauma has something to do with that. So getting punished when you do have fun and then getting punished when you don't do things perfectly is a good way to just like train your brain to focus on responsibilities and focus on tasks and all of those things. So even with all of the growth and healing and just very intentional things that I've done over the years to transform my health, sometimes I forget to have fun, or I don't feel like I can relax enough to have fun. So, and I would do that a little bit. Like I was very intentional about learning how to play the drums in my mid-20s, relearn how to play the drums, because I played with that when I was a kid. And then I started playing soccer for the first time in my life in my mid-20s, late 20s. And yet I would kind of take that very serious perfectionistic approach to those things that were supposed to be fun. And that kind of defeats the purpose, or at least diminishes the potential for the health benefits, I think, for that. So she was pointing out that there are 3 elements of fun, and the first one is playfulness. So really having a playful, not perfectionistic approach and just kind of being goofy. Because she said when she asked people what do they do for fun, they usually list activities, and fun is actually not an activity, but it's how you experience the activity. And so things that are, technically not fun could be fun if you have the right approach to it. So playfulness was the first thing. connection was the second thing. So connecting with other people, building those bonds, building those relationships was the second thing. And then flow state was the third thing. So when you get so focused on a task that everything else kind of fades away and you're just kind of in the zone on that task. So if you have all three, you're feeling playful, you're feeling connected, and you're feeling in flow, then that is an experience of fun. And what was cool is that is what my intention is for pickleball. And some of the people I play with are not there for fun. They're there to win. And I prefer to win as a byproduct of having fun versus, sacrificing fun in order to win. So I wanted to start with that because, as important as it is to drink more water and to eat nutrient-dense foods and lift heavy things and move your body and stretch and get good sleep and have a grateful attitude and all those things, fun is so important. And so something that I've observed or kind of reminded myself of recently was that my intention for my life is to have more ease and more flow. And I also want to make sure that fun is in there as well, because, and I think you guys could probably relate, if you've experienced a lot of trauma, then there's a lot of false guilt, a lot of feeling weighed down by responsibility and juggling the complexities and seriousness of life. But what's the point of being alive if you're just, meeting the deadlines and checking off the to-do list until you die? That's not inspiring. So one thing that I'm really intending for my life is to choose more ease, to have things be less stressful, less overwhelming, less overbearing. And part of that is just in how I approach it. So really kind of taking some pressure off of myself as I approach things is a huge piece of that. So in what ways are you in survival mode? And definitely there are seasons of survival mode, but how are you carrying that on or reinforcing that experience more than you need to in the moment, just because that's what you're used to? And I know that's the case for me in a lot of ways, for a lot of situations, is that I'm just so used to survival mode. I just live life like that. I pack every single moment as full as I can so that I'm racing all the time between things, because I'm choosing to attempt to cram this much stuff into this much time, and not just like, hey, you know what? I'm going to prioritize these couple things I can get done. These things, I'll get those later. And choosing to spread myself out, or spread out my assignments a little bit more, so I have more margin in my life, and hopefully more margin for fun, playfulness, connection, flow. So those things I feel like are huge, and some things that I want to be adding intentionally to my health regime, or probably more accurately, my health intentions. So so wanted to mention that real quick. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about that as you're listening to this, either live now or whenever you're catching this on the replay. So yesterday I posted, and it looks like Kristen and Danielle and Nadi are on. Great to have you guys. Thanks for joining. I posted yesterday, this is actually a meme that I made, but 4 questions. Have you been kind to yourself? Have you been dreaming big dreams? Do you show yourself compassion? Have you celebrated your baby steps? And part of the reason for asking these questions is because we haven't had a live in 3 weeks. And I am curious how you're doing. And also, these questions are so important because they remind us of the heart of our group, the heart of this program, and that is to be connected to us and our needs, not to be connected primarily or obsessed with an external goal, but to be in tune with our heart, our body. How am I doing? How am I treating myself? What are my dreams? What are my goals? What are my desires? Am I having compassion on myself? And am I celebrating the baby steps that I am taking? And if I have not been able to take some baby steps, then am I having compassion on the overwhelm or the triggers, the trauma that are keeping me from expanding at the rate that I wish to expand or healing at the rate that I wish to heal? So that is what I want to permeate the essence and flavor and resonance of this group with, this kindness and self-compassion and dreaming big dreams and being gracious toward baby steps, taking small steps in the right direction, because that is how big change happens. I feel like this is how parenting is meant to be. And I really think that what we're essentially doing in this group is reparenting ourselves in ways that we should have been parented, in ways our parents should have been parented, in ways their parents should have been parented. And we are allowing space for the healing that will come when we reparent ourselves in a heart-centered approach. And it has to do with fitness, it has to do with healing, because that is the area that is probably most visible, most it's the biggest symptom, is our fitness and health, well-being, because the body doesn't lie, even if we're lying to ourselves. So if we keep telling ourselves, I can handle this stress, I can handle the overload, I can handle the overwhelm, I can handle the workload, the body is not going to put up with that. The body is more honest than we are, typically, especially when we've been in a traumatizing environment, and survival means that we have to freeze or fawn or fight or flee, and we ignore our body. The small things that our body is saying to us every day gets put on the back burner because we don't have the luxury of responding to those needs because we're in survival mode. And so then we just keep shutting that voice down until the body says no more. And then we start getting an autoimmune disease, or just extreme fatigue, or we break something or can't function. So the body is not going to let us continue on in this state of ignoring. So we have to come to this heart-centered approach. We have to begin honoring our needs. We have to realize that it's not lazy to get enough rest. It's not self-centered to care for ourselves. It's not lazy to have a workload that you can handle. It's not frivolous to have fun. It's not vanity to want to look and function good. So that's some of what I want to permeate this environment with, this community with, is this self-compassion, this graciousness, this kindness that we begin to have toward ourselves that we may not have ever had toward ourselves before, or have a hard time having toward ourselves. So a couple of things that I'm wanting for this group is to have it be a place of retraining or healing mindset, or the feeling state around health, wellness, and fitness. Build a supportive community that feels really safe to reinforce and anchor this new heart-centered approach, or this different heart-centered approach. It's not new to us if we've been here, but and then provide really helpful, useful tools, practical tools to support this approach to fitness and health. And so that's utilizing the app and the e-course, some how-to guides that I'm making for you guys for nutrition, fitness, and then articles or explanations of things like circadian rhythm principles and all of that. So just really briefly, we're going to be going over this in more detail in the upcoming weeks, because some things are going to change December 1st, and other things are going to change January 1st or be offered. So one of the big things is that I'm going to be offering 12-week group intensives where we'll be going through everything that I cover in my book, basically, individualized for you, specifically targeted toward the people in the group. And so 12 weeks of live, some homework, reading material, some journaling, some responses, and then posting in the group. So it won't be extremely intensive, but it will be deep. And so those are going to cost bigger chunks of money, because it's going to be an intensive program. What I desire for this group is to be kind of a lower intensity, ongoing version of that 12-week intensive, where there's tools available for you. I'm going to be talking about one of those topics each week, kind of on repeat, cycling through every 16 to 20 weeks, because there's a lot of different topics that I'll be spreading out. So for lower cost, much more affordable, this group is going to be an ongoing kind of an incubator for this mindset change, this heart-focused approach to lifestyle, fitness, and healing. So even if you can't do a 12-week intensive and really dive deep in a focused way in the group setting, in the small group setting, this bigger group in here, this community will be like an incubator for all the same things at a lower, much lower intensity. So I will be going over all those things in more detail, but my desire for everything that I offer here is to provide really practical tools and reminders and help so that you can transform your life. So we're going to be intentional, we're going to be goal setting, we're going to be seeking transformation, and everything is about that. Because for me personally, for the last 20 years, I've been on a nonstop journey and quest of personal transformation. And I want to provide an environment, a supportive environment that allows you to kind of gear up to your most optimal self as you are the hero of your story. And so I want to be a supportive force and provide a supportive container for all of your personal transformation goals and dreams. So that's the goal that we're moving toward. Again, more details will be coming in the next couple of weeks as I share more of what is planned for each of those levels. So the community group level and then the 12-week intensive level. So as always, if you have questions or thoughts, I want to hear from you. What could be helpful for you? How could you feel more supported? What tools do you need? I've already got a whole bunch of plans for all those things, but would love any of your feedback that you have for that. So now I'm going to dive into your comments from yesterday's post. So Naughty says, I love these questions. Yes, yes, yes. Hope you and everyone are good. So the question she's talking about is, have you been kind to yourself? Have you kept dreaming big dreams? Do you show yourself compassion? Have you celebrated your baby steps? I know from my journey, like I was such poor health, barely surviving, especially after Marine boot camp, barely functioning. My internal self was destroyed. Self-esteem was gone. And it was just the babyest of baby steps. And so much self-compassion, even though I didn't have much of a capacity to show compassion, because I was really hard on myself, especially in the beginning, because that was how I was used to experiencing life, and especially from my dad and all that. So really just struggling to make any progress, but having to try to champion myself in the littlest ways, encourage myself to keep moving forward and with the baby steps, encouraged and celebrating those baby steps little by little, practicing being kind, practicing giving allowance for the needs that I had and all of that. So so sometimes it is just a moment by moment struggle. Sometimes you're just taking an inch step at a time moving forward, but that counts and that makes a difference, and it pays off huge if you don't give up, and if you can stay consistent over the big picture. Doesn't mean you're not going to have a terrible week here and there. But keep moving forward, keep getting back up, keep pressing, keep looking toward the horizon, keep envisioning your goals. So Susie says, ha ha ha, it's forever a work in progress for me on some of these. Lately, a challenge I've had is multiple projects in progress at home, but the last few months I've not been home during my free time to do much more than a few minutes a day here and there. On some days when I've had a few minutes, I've opted to just relax instead. That's revolutionary. Where the challenges come in is my brain looks at these things, doesn't see significant progress or changes, and gets angsty about it. I do try to look at things and acknowledge the tiny bits of progress as still valuable progress. But I'm very task-oriented and get the most satisfaction when I can say something is completely done. I relate to that. So even though I might say to myself, look, you got these items sorted, containers selected, and you've started putting them in the containers, another part of my brain says, yeah, but there's still stuff spread out all over the couch. And what about this in the garden to do, and power washing, and putting away the clean laundry, and changing over the seasonal clothes, and making that chicken recipe, huh? So I keep working on having patience with myself and appreciating the little bits of progress, sometimes more successfully than others. As for big dreams, I still want to be an astronaut. And while that may never happen, it was a catalyst to accomplishing two things: a biology degree and learning to properly swim. So the dreaming has not been wasted. So yeah, awesome points there, Susie. I totally relate to how your brain points out all the things that you're not doing and haven't done yet. I was just talking about that the other day, how whenever I have a little bit of free time, I kind of get overwhelmed, almost get panicky, because I think of all the things that need to get done, and anything that I'm choosing to do means I'm not doing all these other things. And so, yeah, so we definitely have to practice self-compassion on this, because this is such a perfectionistic approach, and it's so important to be able to kind of correct that voice in our minds, the inner critic that is constantly accusing us of being lazy or not getting things done, not being accomplished, and stand up for ourselves. It's like someone talked about it being like lawyers in a courtroom, and so usually it's just the prosecution that does all the talking in our minds, but we also need to engage the defense attorney and stand up for ourselves a little bit in our own heads and point out other evidence. Because if you only hear from the prosecution, it sounds like pretty cut and dried, pretty done deal. But we need to have the defense attorney actually speak up and explain other facts and point out other things. So yeah, I do believe that this is such a practice and an exercise, something that we have to, it's like strength training. You have to build the muscle of that, standing up for yourself in your own mind. So, and sometimes it's just about being realistic, and, there's only so much time, and I'm prioritizing these things right now. And so these other things are going to get behind, and that's okay. Just like something I have to work on in pickleball and in ping pong and volleyball is that I'm not going to win a point every single time. And sometimes I'm going to, make a really poor decision or, mess something up really badly. But it doesn't mean the game's lost. Even though, like, that's a whole nother conversation about whether it's, if you can be okay with losing. But, just point by point, I tend to react to each mess up as if I just lost the entire game. And just feel really hard on myself and feel shame and all these really intense emotions that are really kind of beyond what that is. I just, misread the ball, or I looked away from the ball and got distracted by what the opponents were doing or whatever. And so, like, settling down and realizing, it's everyone, even the best player in the world is going to lose a point every once in a while. But you can't get all bent out of shape because of that one point. In fact, it's so important to forget about it. It's like, who was it that talks about being a goldfish? If you ever seen the funny show Ted Lasso, about this American Midwest football coach that gets hired to coach a soccer team in England. It's really funny, but he anytime there was a bad play or a bad game, he told the players to have the memory of a goldfish. Just forget about it. Like, it's 8 seconds or something. And so, like, you can't remember. Like, what happened? What? So that's what I'm trying to do, is focus on just letting those things go, not holding on to it, and moving forward. So back to what Susie's talking about, if you've got a whole bunch of projects going and they're not getting done, it's understandable that there's some frustration because you get your sense of accomplishment from finishing something completely, but you have to remind yourself, these are the things I'm prioritizing. These other things are going to be accomplished when they get accomplished, but doesn't reflect on my character because I'm choosing where my accomplishments are. So maybe even making a checklist. Sometimes I've done that. It's like, I feel like I didn't do anything today. I'll make a checklist of everything I did do and then check it off at the end of the day. It's like, wow, that feels so good. Well, look at all that stuff I did. And all of it was just a mindset shift. So yeah, so hopefully that's helpful, Susie. Totally relate to what you're saying. Thank you for sharing. So then Manavit says, progress is good. With the time change, I've had a boost in making it before work to the gym, 5:15 a.m., getting sleep consistently. So yeah, so that's awesome to utilize that time change to kind of stay on the same schedule, but suddenly be an hour earlier. So that's great. I was able to utilize the time change on Sunday morning by sleeping longer. And so that felt good for me. But I have on certain years used that to adjust my schedule and just shift everything earlier all of a sudden. So that's a great thing as well. So she says, getting sleep consistently thanks to enforced bedtime and a new melatonin supplement containing GABA. So that's cool. So I'm assuming she's enforcing her bedtime. My biggest challenge currently is getting enough water. The change in season has made me less interested in drinking water. Not as hot maybe. So the weather cooling down, maybe just like not feeling that And after 6 months of the same eating regimen, I'm chomping at the bit a little, since usually in winter I get more noshy and want richer flavors. Okay, so good observations. Those are great things to be aware of and note. So the water thing, that totally makes sense if being warm was your reminder to drink more water, and that was how you kept at that. And so, yeah, so you may have to make some adjustments, whether that is, having some tea or, warmer water or something. I don't know if it's like cool enough for that. But switching that up, or maybe flavoring it a little bit. I almost always have lemon juice concentrate available, so I can quickly add some lemon flavor to my water, which is good. But even cold tea is something that I enjoy, and then electrolyte packets. So there's a couple of really good. I think I'm seeing some more that are really good that don't have sugar and anything unnecessary in it. So Myoscience, MYO Science, is a company that I get electrolytes from. They're based in Washington State, and really good quality ingredients. And then Element, LMNT, and it's Element. They're another company that seems to be really top quality. So if you can add some electrolytes, that may make water more interesting again, and help you get back on that train. The other possibility is that you may not need as much water if it's cooler, and if you are getting enough minerals and electrolytes in your food, and if you are getting it in your water, then you may be hydrated enough. So that is also a possibility. And then, as far as the food, you've been on the same eating regimen for about 6 months, and so you're getting antsy with that and really wanting to switch things up. So I would just, before your stomach or palate starts deciding just kind of on the fly what changes you're making to your diet, maybe have a sit down when you can and think about what you want to do to switch that up, and do some calculating with that, if you can. So the other thing that I was thinking of with getting more water was maybe having more soups or something. And I think Susie touched on that. So Susie replied saying, drinking just plain water for me outside of a workout is always a challenge. Sometimes I make iced tea and dilute it, or use a tiny bit of sugar-free drink packet. Or lately I put a slice of orange in my water. That's cool. And in food, normally I have a nice salad for lunch, but when the weather gets cold, I think maybe I should do soup. But the soups I like are usually cream of whatever, or have a pasta or rice in them. I can load them up with veggies, but it's not the same. Maybe what I should switch to is my protein with a side of roasted mixed vegetable. So those are good ideas. Also, like a bone broth soup might be really good with some meat. If you are eating meat, that would be high quality and get you hydrated and everything as well. So good stuff. This community is here for you. Excited to just kind of be an incubator for extreme growth and personal transformation. So if you have any thoughts along those lines, if you have any wishes or ways that you would love, like a hand on your back or a kind of a nudge forward or support, please let me know, because that is what I thrive on, and I want to support each of you in the most relevant ways possible. So keep me posted, and I will continue to update you on the new programming and options that are coming in December and January. So have a good week. Talk to you guys soon. Much, much love.